state of intoxication, definitely drunk but more well lubricated than sloppy. His glitzy nose piercing, his queer mannerisms, and his sweater, which he had put on inside out. Not a guy overly worried about impressing me. Instead, he seemed comfortable with himself and was already having a great time. He offered me the last quarter of his vodka sweet tea, mixed in a recycled, generic brand, 1-liter cola bottle. I sniffed it and playfully asked about roofies, but when I had him sip it before me, he looked at me knowingly and said, "Spoken like a girl who's done this before." We exchanged a knowing look. "You're much less terrifying in real life," he confided. "I'll have to work on that." "I'll have to work on that," I said with a half smile and a fierce look in my eye. I had conveniently planned to get too hot in the bar, and took off my shirt to reveal a polka dot tank top and about 15 hours worth of tattoos. George was duly impressed. Feeling like a badass, I ordered a shot of whiskey with a beer back, and he ordered a fruity vodka drink. We sat at the bar and talked about gender bending, underground movies, the pros and cons of living in a smallish town, and shared a mutual preference for uncircumcised penises. "I heard your poem, Roxy. I'm totally on the opposite end." And so was George. I told him all about the other guy I had planned to fuck that night, and the fact that I had been called rude and condescending, and the conversation with my roommate about how I hated and didn't respect men. I also told him numerous times that I hadn't anticipated liking him as much as I did. He told me he wanted to watch me fuck another man. I doubt it took either of us the entire length of a drink to know what was going to happen next. As we exited the bar, I asked, "We are going to my house, right? Or do we have to pretend and be coy and walk around downtown somewhere?" With underlying surprise, he remarked, "Of course we're going to your house."
Oh, it's right here.
After we got settled in my room, he went to the bathroom, and when he came back, I was just in my underwear. I lit a spliff, and we joked with each other a while, me sitting there in my underwear with him fully clothed. When I went to kiss him, he surprised me with his enthusiastic response, and I just about lit my bed on fire by dropping my spliff. Sometimes I think about how it is exactly that I get men to fuck me. In this case, the order of operations was approximately the following. 1, take out Craigslist ad. 2, string him along with occasional texts, occasional ignores for about a month. 3, invite him out and happen to catch him at the right time to make plans. 4, very importantly, get him drunk. 5, tell him I hate all men and want to use them for their bodies and hate fuck them. Meanwhile, telling him how much I like him and being genuinely turned on by his sense of humor and bisexuality. 6, bring him home to a messy bedroom. 7, smoke a spliff. 8, out of nowhere, lean in for a kiss, and it all escalates from there. When he responded with enthusiasm, I pushed him down on the bed. As he pushed to get back up, I pushed harder to keep him down. He slapped me in the face, and I slapped him harder with a reprimanding look. We kissed hard, and I pulled off his pants with some force. Enthusiastically, and without discussion or planning, we traded between giving and receiving. He delighted in my pierced nipples, a first for him, and I taught him how to touch me. His beard was a recent addition, and he experimented with grazing it against my skin. I teased him that I wanted him to grow it longer. And in moments like that, you find yourself wondering, amidst a lovemaking session with a man you've just met, whether you'll ever see him again. Will his beard be longer? Would he grow it out for me? I sucked his cock, and while I deep-throated him and cradled his balls, he kept moaning, "You're so good at that, oh my God." His penis was the perfect size, and I didn't hesitate to let him know how thoroughly I was enjoying myself. We fucked for a while. I sucked his cock. He fingered me while I masturbated. All my recent studying of sexuality has really improved my connection to my desires and my body. I felt my pussy throb, swell, and recede with an attunement that I'd never experienced. Labia majora flattened, labia minora spread and swelled. My uterus pulled back in my body and my vagina grew in size with a tempting effect. As I intellectualized the experience, my vulva had a life of its own, as she fucked his fingers, sucked on his fingers, gripped and dripped all over his hands. As I flicked my clit, I asked him to put in another finger. Gladly. I was charmed to discover how it turned him on immensely. "Oh my God," he groaned, "this is amazing." He fucked me so hard we lost the condom. I mean literally lost, like we couldn't find it. As he was pounding me, we embellished a fantasy wherein he would watch me fuck another man from a chair in the corner of the room. I'd allow him to touch himself, only if I let him. I told him I was going to smack his dick if he put it near me while I was fucking another guy. And then he pulled it out of my pussy and asked me to show him, to hit his dick. When I smacked the head, we realized the condom was gone. Showstopper. I put my fingers as deep inside me as I could. I touched something elusive, but couldn't tell if it was the lip of a condom or just standard internal texture. I couldn't grip anything. I jumped up to search the floor and bed, and George, horny as he was, insisted I forget about it and get back in bed. Easy for you to say, I'm the one who might have latex stuck inside me. Fair enough, I suppose, he laughed. You can take care of that if you need to. Yeah, if I needed to, and I did. It took some effort, but I pushed and was finally able to find the condom deep inside myself and pull it out. The whole experience was somewhat distressing. I remembered the prescription for the morning after pill I carried in my wallet and promised myself to take it the next day. I never did. Luckily, back in bed, the mood was far from having been lost. The first time George came, it was with an oiled-up cock between my huge tits. As with many men before him, he was surprised that I really did genuinely enjoy having my tits fucked. As he humped me and massaged me, occasionally grazing and pinching my nipples, he told me about how he wanted to watch a room full of men fuck me and come on my tits. Thinking about that now, a room full of men covering me with cum, with George standing, stroking his cock in the corner, it makes my mouth water. After he came, before I had come, he checked in to see how I was doing. I felt no urgent need to orgasm, so I smiled at him warmly and said, "I'm all good." He relaxed on his back while I stroked his chest hair, kissed his sides, and smelled him all over. Unlike most of my other lovers, George wears deodorant. And I can tell his shampoo isn't organic. The moments between sex can often be what really makes or breaks a sexual connection. Too many people are uninteresting, awkward, or idiotic. George and I talked about the most revolutionary invention of humanity. He said the radio, I say condoms. We laughed together and everything was easy. From there, things progressed without thinking, from gentle cuddling to making out to full force sexual tension and penetration once again. I asked him to go down on me, and as he licked my clit, I felt repeated waves of female ejaculate washing through my vulva, cleansing the smooth, sticky lubrication of my vaginal walls. If the juice from my vagina was the ocean tide coming in, the gushing of my Skene's glands was a river, and my vulva flourished in a fertile estuary. The water levels rose. When I came, it was with two of his fingers inside me, two fingers of the other hand surrounding my clit, putting pressure on my labia and on my mount, while I gently stroked myself. It was intense from so much buildup, and I relished in it. Exhausted again, we collapsed side by side on the bed, having now switched sides. "You can go back to your misandry now," he laughed. He teased. I laughed and swooned for both his appropriate use of an uncommon word and the simultaneous way he called me out on my bullshit. So I turned to him, kissed his cheek, and teased, "Do I have to?" We both laughed. Still, I made the mistake of furthering my game of apathy in him. I told him that if the buses were still running, it would be time for me to kick him out of my bed. This took him by surprise, and even though I assured him that it was okay for him to sleep in my bed, the damage had been done. I went downstairs to use the bathroom and look for the cats I had left outside. When I came back, George was fully dressed, tucked in shirt and all. He had even called his roommate, who was also crashing with a one-night stand and had offered the stranger's couch. George was set to leave, and I had to beg him to stay. But I wasn't begging because I actually wanted him there. I was begging out of guilt. There used to be a time when I would have indulged the imitation love and reveled in having him stay the night. Now, having been called clingy by one man whom I insisted sleep over when he was drunk, and knowing how it feels to wake up next to a stranger, an awkward combination of embarrassment and misappropriated love, I probably would have preferred that he leave. Plus, it's a lot easier to get attached when that post-coital revelry lasts through the night and into the morning. So George stayed, but now he was fully clothed and out of the covers. I nuzzled him coyly and pulled at his clothes, but he was no longer comfortable next to me. He was as far away from me as he could get in my king-size bed, and he repeatedly refused to take off his clothes. We had a battle of bruised egos. If you want to leave, just leave. You won't offend me. Are you saying you want me to leave? I'm saying you seem uncomfortable. If you weren't comfortable, don't stay. Well, I'm fine. Then take off your clothes. Why should I? You aren't naked either. So I pulled off the negligee I had thrown on to walk downstairs. George just sighed and looked at me sideways. Fine, whatever. I'm going to sleep then, I said. What bluff. Sometimes the best way to get somebody to bend to your will is to simply stop asking. I don't know how long it took, but eventually the sexual desire took over and he took his own clothes off. We ended up fucking again, harder than ever. I don't think it took him even 2 minutes to come for what was now the third time. He tried to stop and warn me, I don't think I can do it. I can't control myself if you fuck me like that. That's a line I've heard many times. And it's really stopped me from slamming my pussy against the guy even harder while I grip him with my PC muscles. You certainly are an energetic fuck, he sighed as he rolled off me. I'm good at what I do. Still, as confident as I am in my skills, as many genuine compliments as I have received, I'm not always fantastic to everybody. Occasionally, even if there is mutual attraction, we just can't make the sex work. He doesn't like my usual tricks, or he insists on touching me with great force. Even I can't do them all. With George, however, I never doubted his genuine and passionate enjoyment. By then, it was somewhere around 3:30 a.m., and we had gotten to my house before midnight. We finally relaxed, both naked, under covers. But we didn't cuddle. Epilogue. It really